Hello, reader. It's only been a few weeks since we finished Season 4 of our stories, but the Reading Bug and I already miss you.
Have you listened to our dragon adventure yet? Be sure to listen and submit your stories or story ideas to us at talkback@readingbugadventures.com, and we'll publish them on our website.
That's right, Reading Bug. Many of you subscribed to our subscription box service over the holidays this year, and we thank you for your support. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, Reading Bug Box is a 100% personalized box that delivers books to your doorstep based on the unique age and interests of each young reader. Be sure to mention you found out about Reading Bug Box from this podcast upon sign-up, and your first box will contain a personalized note from me and the Reading Bug. Visit us at readingbugbox.com today, or learn more about us and our independent bookstore in California at thereadingbug.com.
We are all hard at work writing a whole new season of music and adventures for you, featuring many of our favorite books. But today, and for the next several weeks, I wanted to introduce you to a few of our favorite authors and illustrators, many of whom have inspired some of our adventures together.
Today, we'll meet David Shannon. You may know David from his Caldecot-winning picture book, No David, or another favorite, Duck on a Bike. Today, he brings us his latest book, Mr. Nogginbody Gets a Hammer. Oh, and look, Reading Bug, here he comes now. It's time for a Reading Bug author visit.
Hi, David. Welcome to the Reading Bug Bookstore.
Hello, Reading Bug.
I'm here today with New York Times bestselling author and illustrator David Shannon, who holds a Caldecott honor for his semi-autobiographical and widely known picture book, No David. David's written more than 35 books for children, and today we are excited to help present Mr. Nogginbody Gets a Hammer, available now from W.W. Norton's new children's imprint. And David, thanks so much for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
So, I want to talk about your latest work, but first I want to talk a little bit about how you got to here. Can you tell us a little bit about your early career, maybe even before writing and illustrating?
Mm-hmm. You know, I got here through the art side of things. I always wanted to be an artist. So I drew when I was a little kid. I drew when I was a teenager. I went to art school for college. And I began my career as an editorial illustrator. That's someone who does illustrations for magazines and newspapers, posters, stuff like that. And I actually got into children's books kind of by accident. Somebody saw a piece I'd done for a newspaper, and they had a manuscript, called me up, and I said, well, that'll be a nice break from these 24-hour deadlines. And then I could say, I did a children's book once. So I did that, and it was a lot of fun. And when the book came out, other people saw it, sent me more manuscripts. So I did another one and another one. And before long, I realized that that's what I'd always liked to do. When I was a kid, whatever I was reading, I would draw pictures from. So when I was reading The Hobbit, there were drawings of Bilbo Baggins and Gandalf all over my room. And so I kind of realized that, this is what I really like to do. And after a while, my editor encouraged me to start writing too. So I did, and it was a lot of fun.
So I heard that as a kid, you might have gotten into a little bit of trouble here and there.
No. Where did you hear that? No, not true.
Are you sure?
Oh, maybe a little bit.
So
could you define trouble?
Well, a couple things. We'll start with, I did read in your biography, I cheated a little bit, that maybe the teachers kept you busy by drawing murals on walls.
They did. They discovered that if they assigned me the mural, like the Christmas mural or whatever, that not only did they get a pretty good-looking mural, but that it kept me quiet and occupied.
Do any of those teachers have those murals anymore, do you think?
I don't know, but I do know a friend of mine, his mom had one of the murals I did because her son did the backside of a cow in the mural. That was sort of a family joke.
So, within this troublesome past that you had as a little boy, we get No David, the Caldecott honor, and I hear that this is semi-autobiographical, maybe?
Yes. Yeah, kids ask me if I'm really David, and the answer is sorta. It actually, I got the idea for No David from a book I made when I was a little kid. That was about me. It was just drawings of me doing stuff I wasn't supposed to do, and the only words in it were no and David because that's all I knew how to spell. So
it's not just all you heard from everybody else.
Well,
No,
it's yeah.
David!
I mean, you do learn to spell what you hear. But my mom saved it and showed it to me years later, and I thought maybe that it might make a good children's book, so I redid it.
So you visit a lot of schools, and one of my favorite parts of your presentation is when you show the kids a little bit about your eyes. Can you discuss this a little bit?
the showstopper.
Showstopper.
Yeah, well, my face is lopsided, and so usually, like if I'm showing them how to draw David, it comes up that the character David and me, we both have one eye higher than the other. So I do a thing where I hold my head straight and then I tilt my head so my eyes are straight, and it elicits gasps. Ooh. In fact, one kid, I was doing the eye thing, and this kid in the back stood up and yelled, "You're freaking me out!" and fell straight backwards.
It's funny, but in a way too, it just shows kids, which I think is so important, that everybody is a little bit different and everybody has some quirk or something. And mine, for example, is my left shoulder is taller than my right shoulder. I think everyone has something on their body that's a little lopsided.
You have just a little Igor to you.
I know. So now when you're staring at my shoulders, you can see that the left one comes up a little higher than the right. So, and I can do the same for your eyes.
We all have those little things. And of course, David, usually his left nostril is a little bit bigger than his right nostril.
Interesting.
And that's because he's left-handed. So you can figure that one out.
Got it. So I have some other favorite books of yours too. I mean, there's so many, but Duck on a Bike, Bad Case of the Stripes, which is huge. Everybody knows it. Can you tell us a little bit about some of these books and where those ideas came from?
Bad Case of Stripes, that, I play this, I tell kids about this little game I sometimes play, because I get ideas from all kinds of different places. Sometimes it's almost like magic. You get almost a whole idea for a book. But other times it's, I'll get an idea from something my daughter did or something I see. But then I also play this little game called Wouldn't It Be Weird If? And that's how Bad Case of Stripes started. Was I woke up one morning and I went, wouldn't it be weird if instead of chicken pox you got different colored stripes? And I pictured that image on the cover of the little girl with stripes and a thermometer, and it stuck with me. And then I had to figure out why she got stripes and what happened, and then how she got cured and all of that. But that's how it began.
I love it. So, talking about wouldn't it be weird if, I have to assume that Mr. Nogginbody Gets a Hammer came from the same wouldn't it be weird
He's
if.
pretty weird, that's for sure. Well, another place, I write down all my ideas in my sketchbook, because sometimes I even write down the ones I think are dumb. Because sometimes they'll turn out to be really good, or they'll make me think of something else. Other times I'll write down an idea I think is awesome, and I'll read it the next day and say, no, this is really lame. But I also doodle, and do little sketches and stuff. And sometimes I like to just sit and make up weird little nonsense characters, and that's where Mr. Nogginbody came from. So it started with just the weird little guy with a noggin for a body.
So Mr. Nogginbody Gets a Hammer is exactly what it sounds like. Can you tell us a little bit about how the story progresses and what Mr. Nogginbody does?
Well, Mr. Nogginbody, he has a huge head, but a little tiny brain. So he's not too bright. And he's sliding in his socks down the hall. And he stubs his toe on a nail. And can't figure out what the heck this thing is. So he goes to the hardware store and he gets a hammer. And he fixes that nail. And then he starts going around fixing, in quotation marks, anything that's at all nail shaped, like a lamp and the shower head and eventually flowers. But so the story is it's kind of a combination of things. I've always liked Maslow's law of the instrument, which is if all you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was kind of a good absurdist kind of theme for an absurdist little guy like Mr. Nogginbody. But there's also kind of a goofy dad element to him, which is from true life. Mm-hmm. I once fixed a glass shower door with a hammer. I was just trying to tap the little plastic runner in a little bit, and the whole thing exploded. Nice. So, and there is indeed a nail that sticks up in our kitchen too. So, yeah, it's a little bit of everything.
Hardwood floors with those nails sticking up, the socks getting caught on them.
Yeah, it's not good. It's very much like stepping on a Lego.
Yes, yes, every day. Every day.
Yeah, and that's where Too Many Toys came from,
Yes, Too Many Toys is another favorite.
Yeah.
Especially at Christmas time, I think. But
yeah. Well, that started with me stepping on a toy and yelling. My daughter's name is Emma, and I yelled, "Emma, you have too many toys!" And it went ding. That sounds like a good title.
That's a book.
And it went from there.
So with all of these books, I mean, it sounds like there's always a great story behind them, and they kind of ruminate for a while before you get them into book format. How long, for example, with Mr. Nogginbody, does it take from start to finish for you to finish one of these books?
Mr. Nogginbody was different from all my other books. I ended up doing the entire book in my sketchbook in pen and ink. I thought I was just sort of doing the dummy version of it, and well, let's say normally when I make a book, I've got pretty much of the story done, probably a couple drawings, and then I sit down at my drawing table and do a very structured process of the drawings in pencil and then full color paintings after that. That usually takes about a year. Mr. Nogginbody, I just kind of kept going with these drawings in my sketchbook and thinking I was going to paint them afterwards. Do full color finished paintings, and I liked the drawings so much. They had this kind of immediate feel to them that I got those photographed and printed on nice art paper, and then added a little bit of color with oil paints on top of those. So it was a whole different process.
Yeah, the black and white is actually very striking in the book. I really like a lot of black and white.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's what I responded to too. Is I said, this guy should be in black and white, and I experimented with how much color to put in the backgrounds, or with the other characters and things like that.
So now my favorort part is the rapid fire questions. Whatever comes to your mind. Are you ready?
Bonus round.
Yes, this is exciting. This is actually a lot of, I know when you go to schools, you get lots of questions from kids. And some of these, I think, are some of the top ones that the kids ask. I think. Maybe you have some other ones, but let's start with these and then you can tell me more.
All right.
Your favorite food?
Dark chocolate.
Favorite color?
Well, it used to be blue, but now I think it's red. Although yellow is beginning to creep in too. You just never know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Oh, probably The Wizard of Oz. Yep.
Nice.
Which I've, been watching since it used to be on. I don't know if you remember. Was it Thanksgiving? Mm-hmm. It was on every year at
We
Thanksgiving.
watch it all the time.
Now of course, now you can all the time. But yeah, I love that movie.
Favorite book?
Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Dickens is my favorite author.
Favorite book you've made?
Well, that's tough because I like all of them for different reasons. They all remind me of different things. I really like Mr. Nogginbody because he's so much fun to draw. He cracks me up. So, but probably my favorite is No David because that's what that's the favorite of the kids, and that's what I've gotten all the letters about, and so that's really that's the special book of my career.
And the favorite book you wish you made?
Yeah, there's a lot of those. I'll tell you one I would love to redo, except I can't because it's Dr. Seuss, and nobody can redo Dr. Seuss. Right. But I would love to do If I Ran the Zoo.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, where he just basically riffs on weird animals and stuff, sort of like when I was talking about the weird little nonsense characters. It would be fun to do a book that's just, strange animals with weird names.
I still see a weird animal book in your future.
Well, I'll just rip him off. I mean, what the heck?
I mean, one morning you're probably going to wake up with that same thing. Wouldn't it be weird if an elephant looked like... And who's your favorite artist besides you?
Oh, I have a lot of favorite artists. I have a lot of influences from all over the place. So growing up, and still to some extent, N.C. Wyeth was my favorite illustrator, and he really was the one that I had in mind when I wanted to be an illustrator. But I love I love Paul Gauguin, Mark Rothko, which who knew? So all kinds of art.
Do you have a favorite medium painting or drawing or?
Well, I've been, for the last few years, I've been painting mostly with oils. Most of my career I used acrylics, but I was always trying to make them look like oils. It was just a matter of logistics, of drying time, and my studio was in the house, so, they stink, and they're toxic. And then a few years ago, I was just kind of getting tired of painting. And I said, well, what can I do to, make it new and fresh? And I realized, well, my daughter's old enough, so she's not going to eat paint anymore. My studio's no longer in the house. And I no longer have these deadlines that limit how long I can let a painting dry. So I painted in oils, and it was great. And it put all the fun back in. But now I'm really liking this pen and ink stuff. And I love using whiteout with it.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I in between books I do some abstract stuff, and I've started using the things I learned from Nogginbody in my fine art too. It's like doing little pen and ink and whiteout sketches and then blowing them up really big and adding color, and they look cool.
I've had a hard time finding whiteout lately.
That's my fault.
A little bit of a loss. Are you taking it all?
Yeah, I'm getting it all.
So what, if you had one bit of advice for a kid who wants to be an artist and or an author, what would it be? Well,
the best advice I can give is to practice. If you like to draw a lot. If you like to write a lot. And write or draw about stuff that you like to do. Because you'll spend more time with it, you'll see it more clearly in your head, you'll have more fun, and that'll come across. At various times in anybody's art career, they run up against people or forces that try to, that say, "Oh no, what you're doing that's not really art. Do this instead." And, when I was a teenager, I wanted to be a comic book artist. And that was before the graphic novel had been invented. Mm-hmm. So people would say, oh, yeah, those are nice drawings, but they're not art. And nowadays, it's a completely acceptable art form. There's graphic novel majors in art school. Mm-hmm. And I learned stuff about telling stories with pictures from comic books that I still use all the time with my children's books. So, stick with what you like. I have a friend that always loved drawing dinosaurs, and even in art school, he liked drawing dinosaurs, and his teachers would say, will you stop drawing dinosaurs? He said, but I like drawing dinosaurs. And he ended up being the guy that designed all the dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. So, yeah.
There's
Happy
a good
ending.
reason for that.
Yeah, right.
So do you think you'll ever do a graphic novel?
Oh, no, too much work.
Too much work.
Too much work,
All
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
I do hear that. I mean, some of the artists in graphic novels takes them years to finish these
Yeah,
books.
yeah.
So many spreads.
Well, and, they also, I think if you do a graphic novel, you need to be pretty fluent with Photoshop and things, and I'm not exactly, I'm sort of an old-fashioned dude.
You're old school.
I'm
book
old
art.
school. I like to get messy. Yeah,
That works too. There's room for everything, I think, in publishing.
Yeah.
So speaking of, what is next for you? Are there any new projects that you can tell us about?
Well, I've actually got a couple of books already done. That'll be out next year.
Great.
One is a book about my dog Roy, and it's called Roy Digs Dirt, and he digs everything about dirt. It's just his favorite substance. So that'll be out, and then I have another Nogginbody book called Mr. Nogginbody and the Childish Child.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
And this may horrify you. Mm-hmm. But in this one, Mr. Nogginbody babysits.
Oh, how interesting.
And hilarity ensues.
All right. I like it. Sounds very exciting. Well, we can't wait to have you this afternoon. We have some lucky schools in our area that get to see you visit. And then tonight, as if you didn't have enough to do, you get to speak with over 100 teachers from all over the Bay Area.
Well, I'm looking forward to it.
No pressure there. Just a lot of teachers who are really excited to meet you. And we thank you so much for being here today. You can purchase Mr. Nogginbody Gets a Hammer and all of David's other works at thereadingbug.com or your local independent bookstore. And for a limited time, you might be able to snag an author-signed copy from the Reading Bug of Mr. Nogginbody Gets a Hammer if we don't sell out tonight, which I expect maybe we will. David, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
When you're a reader, you're a leader. You're ready to learn about everything as you grow. You'll show this world that you can be anything. You could write a book or fly a plane, build a house with a giant crane. Whatever you do, one thing will be true. There's nothing you can't do. You can see it through just by being you. Thanks for listening to our Reading Bug Author Visit series. We'll be back with all new story adventures later this spring. So be sure to submit your story ideas to us at talkback@readingbugadventures.com. The Reading Bug is a family-owned independent bookstore in California. We are passionate about engaging, entertaining, and educating children with an emphasis on creating personal connections with kids. Please consider supporting us and our podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/readingbugadventures. Shop for millions of books at thereadingbug.com or subscribe to readingbugbox.com for perfectly personalized books delivered to your doorstep every month. Thanks for listening.